here is an amazing article via the Financial Times, and this essentially talks about everything that's been going on at Vivienne Westwood and all the issues that have been happening. If you follow me on TikTok or Twitter, I've already kind of opened the conversation around this whole situation. But let's rewind to the Palace collab. So as you guys know, Palace collaborated with Vivienne Westwood, and it seems as though the collaboration with Palace has really put a nail in the coffin in terms of destroying all the relationships between Vivienne Westwood, the company, and Vivienne Westwood, the foundation. Now, if you go back and you watch my live stream reviewing the Vivienne Westwood Palace collaboration, Finn actually mentioned a lot of this that we're going to be talking about today. So you can go back and watch and have some context over there. But essentially, Vivienne Westwood's granddaughter resigned from the brand, and her name is Cora. Now, in a nutshell, before we actually read through the article and get more context, what essentially happened is Cora co-founded something called the Vivienne Foundation with her grandmother, Vivienne Westwood. Now, this foundation is all about, what Vivienne Westwood was passionate about. So looking at things like climate change, fighting for human rights, and all those things. Now, where the dispute comes in is Cora is claiming that just before Vivienne Westwood passed, she transferred all the rights of her designs to the foundation from the Vivienne Westwood company. So of course, when this Palace collaboration happened, it kind of caused a big dispute at the brand because the Vivienne Westwood Foundation were like, well, we did not give you any permission to use our IP to do this collaboration. But the Vivienne Westwood company just ignored the foundation and did it anyway. And so that is essentially what this article talks about, of course, in way more context. So we're going to read through it, get all the context, and then we're going to talk further. It's not a really long article, by the way. So it's something I can read through really quickly. So it says, the granddaughter of Dame Vivienne Westwood has resigned from the eponymous fashion house in a dispute over the legacy of the late British designer and her use of her designs. Cora Core, who works for Vivienne Westwood Company, has called for its chief executive, Carlo Diamario, to be removed in a letter to staff that announced her resignation. Westwood, working with Malcolm McLaren, pioneered the taboo-busting punk aesthetic in their Kings Road clothes shop in West London in the 1970s. The Vivienne Westwood Company was set up in 1993 to sell the designer's clothing and merchandise. Core, a co-founder of the Vivienne Westwood Foundation, a not-for-profit organization set up with her grandmother in 2019 to support causes advocated by the designer, such as tackling climate change and defending human rights. Core has acted as a bridge between the Vivienne Westwood Company and the Vivienne Foundation as tensions arose between the two. Now, I'm going to stop there because that's a very, very interesting thing to consider. The fact that she was actually acting as the bridge between the Vivienne Westwood Company and the Vivienne Foundation, even as tensions arose between the two. So now that she's resigned, what does that mean for there being kind of like a middleman or a middlewoman in this case between the foundation and the company? And that's why I'm going to talk about it later when we're done reading the article. This could unfortunately lead to a very, very messy lawsuit because there's going to be a fight around who owns what, who has the rights to which design. Did Vivienne Westwood, sign off the rights to these things in paper? Can they throw these things out legally in court? All these kind of conversations will be happening definitely very soon. But continuing on, it says, relations have strained since Westwood's death in 2022, with disputes arising over the company's rights to use her designs. The foundation says Westwood transferred all her pre-1993 creative design and property rights to it, including some of her best-known punk and post-punk work. The foundation in October objected to the use of Westwood's design archive by the company in a collaboration with skate label Palace. At the time, it argued the use of designs from the archive showed a blatant disregard for Vivienne's wishes, her legacy, and the foundation. The foundation has said that the Vivienne Westwood Company has also successfully moved to trademark the Vivienne Foundation. In her letter to company staff, Core alleged that her grandmother had been unhappy with the way the business was being run. The company did not immediately respond to a request for comment. So, like I've said, this is a lot is going on at the Vivienne Westwood brand in that sense. And I think you can see it from many different perspectives because we don't have like the true info. We don't know legally how Vivienne Westwood transferred the rights. We have no idea. We've just heard that, she did transfer the rights. We don't know how. We don't know which lawyer did it, through which lawyer, through which company. And so this, I can see being a very, very messy situation. And you can kind of see, when things like this happen, you can always see the writing on the wall. You can literally see so many people. Normally there's like a restructuring that normally happens, and you're like, okay, something is going on in this brand. Because I remember at Vivienne Westwood when Jeff Banks exited, and I'll show you guys, actually, there's a really good article I was reading not too long ago about this, where you're just like, you're seeing people leaving, you're seeing people being fired, and then you're seeing disputes between the foundation and the brand. It's only a matter of time before something seriously messy happens. So here you can see, this is an article that came out in July this year. It reads, Vivienne Westwood boardroom upheaval sees Jeff Banks exit. And it says, Jeff Banks has been ousted from the board of Vivienne Westwood in a high-level coup that has seen him on the opposite side of tussle for control with her husband, Westwood creative director Andreas, and the firm CEO Carlo Diamario, which is funny because Carlo is now the person that, of course, Vivienne Westwood's granddaughter is saying should be removed because everything he's doing is really bad for the brand. Of course, here they also talk about the fact that Banks was really good friends with Vivienne Westwood. He was also somewhat of a business mentor of hers for many different years. So from all angles, the whole thing just doesn't really look good. From every single angle, everything just looks really messy, and I hope that this doesn't end badly. That's what I'm really hoping. Let's see what Leah's saying. Is Vivienne Westwood's name also legally copywritten? Because that makes it almost impossible for the brand. They'll just go in circles for disputes. And that's the thing. Because we don't really know for sure the legal specifics, we're just going to have to watch it play out. Obviously, it's my job to tell you guys the news and tell you what's happening, but we're obviously going to update this story and we're going to follow it and see what happens from here. Where does it go? What happens between the foundation and the brand? And what exactly this just means for the future of the brand? Because this might mean, quite literally, that they can't do anything because they're just going to have to wait until they have the rights or this whole thing is fixed. So it might get to a point where there are less collections, there are less designs being put out, the brand kind of stagnates, and that's going to affect the brand financially. So to me, it's all really a mess. It's really, really a mess. Also, to the old mule, yes, Jeff Banks was someone that really helped Vivienne out when she was struggling. And that's why when you see people like that being removed from a brand, you can always see the writing on the wall. You can always see the writing on the wall. Leo says, like, it's one thing the orb is legally owned by the foundation, but if she legally traded her brand under her name from conception, then we are literally facing the end of Vivienne Westwood. And that's the thing, right? Because the company owns the rights to her name, which is why the foundation, from my understanding, is called the Vivienne Foundation. It probably can't even be called the Vivienne Westwood Foundation because they don't have, the rights to be able to do that, which is why they're like looking to see how they can register that. So yeah, it's about to be a messy, messy ride. I don't like it because obviously I'm a fan of Vivienne Westwood's work historically. And it's sad to see such an iconic brand have issues that could potentially lead to the downfall of the brand long term. I don't like that. I'm a fan of Vivienne Westwood. I just hope that this doesn't lead to the downfall of the brand long term. Emir_R5 says, do you think the financial hit will be significant enough to really hurt the company? It could be, depending on how bad the legal battles get. But it definitely could be. I can see a situation in which like the legal situation can really mess up the brand financially long term. The next man says, all for this Dead Palace collab. Brazy, brazy, brazy. Low key though, because I have 2 pieces from the Palace collab. Low key, that I have Grails now. Low key, they're like the band Jordans. It's like, oh, this was the collab that should never have happened. The old mule says, would it be a bad thing? Her history and creativity is well behind them now. As Andreas is killing the reputation she spent years building. He definitely is, by the way. I definitely agree with that. I guess there is this sentiment sometimes that we have in fashion where it's like, once the founder of a brand has left, there's no reason for the brand to still exist because it can't really exist in the way that the founder intended it to. And I definitely see that to be the case. We have this conversation all the time when it comes to a brand like Alexander McQueen. However, business is business. And I always say this, but you can't expect someone who has invested so much money into a brand to just be like, okay, I'm just going to let go of all my hundreds of millions of investment just because you guys want me to. Like, that's not really how business works. If we're being realistic and pragmatic, of course, we would like things to stay true to the essence of what the brands are supposed to represent. However, business dictates that that is never the case. Rose says, everything always goes to shit when the founder of a house dies. I hate it. They set up the foundation so this wouldn't happen, but here we are. I know, right? I know. When I posted my video on Instagram about this, a lot of people were saying that they hope that the foundation stays alive and the brand dies. And then there are also people on the flip side. A lot of people on the flip side were saying that, well, the foundation is more about doing things that are morally right for the brand, but not necessarily business-wise. And if you leave everything to the foundation, they might run the brand into the ground financially. Either way, it's not looking good, either way. Whatever angle you look at it from. Leah says, I agree with that sentiment if the designer had codes and design that was so intrinsically tied to them, and the brand doesn't hire designers whom were lovers, friends, stands of the brand's culture. Yeah. Which is why, going back to McQueen, even though people are always like, oh, McQueen's wish was, to get rid of the brand once the brand was done. Sarah Burton was always the seamless transition because she was there for so long, right? So I think it depends. I think it just depends how you see it. I don't think there's any right way to see it. I think some brands have benefited from being able to continue, and then some brands haven't. The Netra man says, since Cristobal Balenciaga died, the house has gone from strength to strength. A lot of people would disagree with you on that one. I definitely can agree to a certain extent with that, but yeah, a lot of people disagree with you on that one. Luke says, McQueen's wish was not to close the brand. He changed his mind in 2009. Yeah, I'm more talking about the conversation that people have online, because what happens is that clip of McQueen saying what he said, I feel like it makes the rounds on TikTok and Instagram let's say every 3 months. Every 3 months or so, or every 4 months, there's a page that posts that clip like we haven't seen it 1 trillion times. And there's a page that's like, oh my God, do you guys remember when McQueen said this? And then it opens up a big conversation of, oh, founders, once they leave their house, just shut the house down. It's like, that's more online discourse that happens. I literally see that clip every 4 months. It's so hilarious. It's quite funny. On TikTok and Instagram, I see the same clips at 4 to 6 month intervals. I kid, the Balenciaga today is not the house of Cristobal at all. The thing about creative directors dying and McQueen continuing, I always think about the most skillful tailors in the market being out of job after him dying. The old mule says, Vivienne stopped being in control of the collections in the late 90s. Andreas did the majority of the collections. That's when I stopped buying it. Yeah, because she was more focused on like her activism and obviously later on the foundation and things like that. So that is very true. But my issue is like, So I'm not really interested in modern Vivienne Westwood. It's just not for me at all. I could care less. Of course, they're really successful and they're making loads of money on the accessories, especially the orb pendant necklaces. My word, they are going triple damn platinum. Let me go on their website. Those orb necklaces, everyone I know that is like remotely into fashion and kind of edgy, even people that don't really care about fashion too much, they have those. It's actually insane how many people have those things. So that kind of seems to be what is keeping them afloat. But outside of that, I don't like the ready to wear of Vivienne Westwood right now doesn't interest me. So what really interests me about Vivienne Westwood personally is them having the ability to have collaborations with really cool brands and re-release interesting things that I wasn't alive to buy at the time. So I would love to buy a collaboration or a rehash of those kind of things. That is the only thing that interests me about Vivienne Westwood, to be honest. I love when a random page decides to farm engagement with clips we've seen already. It kind of works though, because every time I see those kind of clips, I go to the comments to see if people are going to say, haven't we seen this like a million times? And most of the comments are just people saying that they've never seen it before. Like, oh, this is like really good and like interesting insights. So I'm like, oh, damn. I must be in like a really bad bubble. Oh, yeah. The Vivienne Westwood necklaces, they're terrible quality. Definitely. They're horrible quality. However, the pass I will give Vivienne Westwood is that they are affordable. Like, look at this. This is a bracelet. It's £125. This is not, silver toned brass charging £2,000 or whatever. Like, the prices are actually semi decent. Like, this is like £400. It's okay. I can get with it. The Shelly choker, $550. You've got pearl and orb earrings for $215. Yeah, so the pass I give Vivienne Westwood is that the price is just not so, completely outrageous that you're just like, what the hell? It's just like fashion, show jewelry, and I guess we understand that, and the price point also represents that. My coveted Vivienne thing is that giant cheek safety pin. Oh, that's really cool. Also, a lot of people just love like corsets to get Vivienne Westwood corsets because obviously if you look at just the history of Vivienne Westwood in general, from a styling perspective, Vivienne Westwood would style corsets as outerwear, which was really cool, and started to play with the idea of what corsetry is as a piece that you wear on the outside, not on the inside. So of course, corsetry also does really well for Vivienne Westwood, even now. And that goes back to collaborations, because I think if they collaborate with really interesting brands, they can do really cool things with the corsetry. I think with the Palace collab, what they did with the corsetry was very lackluster. But there are other brands they could work with that the stuff could be really interesting, and they can make corsets for men that I would love to explore. That's what I'm interested in Vivienne Westwood. Like, also people are saying the plaids. That's what I'm saying. So when I say the stuff that I wasn't old enough to be able to buy, I just kind of want to buy that. So I just wait patiently for them to collab with brands or re-release things that I personally like. That's what interests me about Vivienne Westwood. But all the modern ready-to-wear, not my cup of tea, not my cuppa at all, mate. Like, not at all, mate. Not at all. You've got a penis pendant necklace, £190. Interesting. Does anyone have quality anymore? There are a few people that have quality, just not many, it seems. I wants to be in the streets wasteless, 6'2" and snatched. Yeah, everyone in the comments, you guys are saying that the plaids are good. Yeah, 100%. I said in the last live stream that I'm looking for kind of like a skirt kilt kind of vibe. But I haven't bought one yet because I'm just looking for the perfect one. But if Vivienne Westwood with their plaid, they just released a nice looking skirt that's kind of boxy in shape, I'm going to buy that shit. And it's kind of long. I'm definitely going to buy that shit. This YouTube channel runs on your support. If you want to support the channel, you can subscribe to my Patreon. You'll gain access to exclusive content that includes everything from my Patreon podcast, where I give a behind-the-scenes insight into the fashion industry, as well as a fashion book club, where I review my favorite fashion books. You can also check out my fashion ebook, which highlights the best fashion journalists to follow, definitions of common fashion terminology, and how to determine what a good source of fashion information is. The links to everything are in the description below.